Good. Good. So here we are, ladies, gentlemen. Welcome to this panel titled World Heritage for Sustainable Development. This panel, this discussion is organized by the Santagata Foundation for the Economics of Culture, of course, in collaboration in the frame of the RO.ME Museum exhibition. I'm going to say a few words in introducing our guest today. We are going to talk about World Heritage, obviously, and World Heritage sites are counting today 1,121 in 167 different countries, and they are increasingly considered to be as an occasion to boost development, sustainable development, according to the United Nations 2030 agenda. Also, with the Indicators Culture 2030, UNESCO introduced a new tool to measure the effectiveness and capacity of culture to affect and impact on sustainable development processes. All this is posing a need to shift to consider World Heritage sites as places just for conservation and, let's say, consumption, to centers for producing and promoting sustainability. It is with this belief that we launched with our team in the recent years a number of different initiatives, namely research and training and capacity building on this topic, aiming to work on this topic. One of them is the International Academy on UNESCO Designations and Sustainable Development that we developed together with the Regional Bureau of UNESCO for Europe. More recently, we started an initiative which is titled YES, which stands for Youth Empowerment for Sustainability, aimed at engaging youth towards sustainable development of good practices. And let me mention also an award on good practices for sustainability that we launched exactly this year, exactly in the frame of RO.ME. The first award that we gave 2 days ago was to the city, the municipality of Urbino in Italy. The historic center of Urbino is a World Heritage site, and we gave an award for their work on climate change adaptation. Today we have a very good occasion to try to explore some very interesting experiences. We have a very interesting panel composed by Isabella Anatole Gabriel, who is the head of the Europe unit at the World Heritage Center. Stefania, Manca, and her colleagues, I see them as well from the municipality of Genova. Petteri, Takkula, Suomenlinna, Finland, World Heritage Site. Mariola, Andonegui from Millan de la Cogolla in Spain. Juliana, Strogan from Rjukan-Notodden World Heritage Site in Norway. Reka Viragos, again from the World Heritage Center, and Claudio Bocci, who was the former director of Federculture in Italy. So this was the introduction of our panelists. The first one that I would like to take the floor is Isabella Anatole Gabriel. Isabel, I'm giving you the floor for your speech. Okay, I don't understand. I don't see Isabel. I don't understand if you are connected. Let's move. Let's check it, and let's move to the second presenter in the order that we just mentioned. So I saw you, Stefania. You were the second in my list. So Stefania Manca, municipality of Genova. I give you the floor.
Okay. For inviting the city of Genoa to present one of the routes towards sustainability. I'm Stefania Manca, officially the resilience manager of the municipality, and also responsible of the coordination of the Urban Agenda Partnership on Climate Adaptation. I work in strict connection with my colleagues that are here, that are connected, that are Corrado Ragucci, that is my boss, and Marzia Verucchi, that is responsible for the UNESCO site and management plan in the municipality. Now we'll share the screen. I'll try to be really fast because I'm the starting, and so I don't want to. Okay. Okay. So our presentation is in regards to the converging routes towards sustainability. And first of all, I have to show you where we are. And we are in the northern, western part of Italy. Sorry, we are a coastal city, and here on the right there is our lighthouse, one of our identities that we recognize, and it is one of the ancient lighthouses in Europe also, and it's functioning. And my city is a coastal city. It is squeezed and stretched along the coast for 30 kilometers. It has a medium-sized population. We are more or less less than 600,000 people, concentrated more or less all around the coast. And our historical center is strictly connected to the port. We have an ancient circular port, and we are also the door of Europe historically. And what I would like to tell you, it is about our UNESCO recognizance and site. It belongs to our historical buildings. They belong to the Renaissance period. They are in the core of the city, and they represent one of our identity. And the first things that I would like to tell you, even though they are an ancient buildings, they are alive because people live in, and they work in, and they also are museum. But not only, they are also owned by private owners that live, and they still love them, and they want to maintain them, and it is high cost, as you can imagine. So we are trying to develop a plan also to help the maintenance of the building, and also trying to adapt them to climate change, because climate change impact are really, really important in our cities. And you can see now the number for 48 palaces now that are inscribed in this UNESCO recognizance till 2006. And this is our storyline number one. So in 1992, our historical buildings and center was mapped for the first time, and all the data lie in an original database with all data useful for not only the maintenance but also for the valorization of the palaces. And in 2006, the inscription year on the UNESCO recognizance. In 2019, so really, really, we are a new lead partner of the UNESCO, and we approve right now the innovative management plan. The storyline is in relation to from the awareness of the cultural value, and we shift on a new paradigm of protect, valorize, and new interpretation of the territory to promote the historical heritage as an alive part of our city. And the storyline number 2, instead, is in regards the local awareness in respect our criticalities and our vulnerabilities, not only from the social context but also from the territorial one, and we cannot forget the historical heritage on this. Indeed, we live in a fragile territory. We are exposed to a lot of risk, and we face a lot of critical situation during the last year, as you can also see in every media. So from flooding, from critical infrastructure breakdown, and so on. What we would like to do in these years was to change paradigm and also change the path of our cities, and transforming the challenges into opportunities. That's why we downscale local strategy, learning from the upscaling process in the EU and in the world, studying all the international agenda, and downscaling it in concrete measure in a common strategy on urban resilience, that is our lighthouse city strategy, and now approving an action plan made by 15 actions. In a sense, this broader strategy look at 3 main trends of transition. Okay, the first one is climate change, with all the related effects, especially from the Mediterranean region, that is that one to which we belong. And also the demographic change. We are one ancient city, an European one, so we expect to have a lot of elderly people in the next upcoming years. And also we know that we have to be more attractive, especially for the younger. And then the digital transition, that is the more fascinating one, because we are facing now the digital boosting due to the COVID-19, but we have to reflect and to better understand which are the inequalities behind and which will be the people that we can leave also behind. So we have to be very careful on this to avoid any kind of inequalities. And then all these 2 storylines bring together, embedded, if we can say, the 2030 new urban agenda with its 17 sustainable development goals. These are embedded into different way. One, it is embedded in the management plan of the UNESCO recognized sites, and the other, it is embedded in the action plan that will be the operational part of the Lighthouse City strategy. Now I'll show you in which sense. Thank you to the Indicators Council 2030, we can also measure our coherency in our management plan, respect the 4 main issues and the 4 main topics: environment and resilience, prosperity and livelihoods, knowledge and skill, inclusion and participation. In our management plan for the UNESCO, that is based on conservation, development and connection as main pillar, we analyze all the action, and we find more or less a strictly connection, especially on environment and resilience. And this is quite normal. We are talking about historical buildings that are really fragile and also vulnerable, especially to climate change impacts. But also prosperity and livelihoods and inclusion and participation are key elements in our actions. And then the knowledge and skilling, especially for the future and the future trends, are also our action. But if you can see, it is undoubtedly that environment and resilience for our core activities. Instead, our action plan, I don't know if you can see, but the slides are available, and we can send also the deep slides. Is based on 15 action in which the UNESCO and the cultural heritage is connected to the gray asset, because we would like to reinforce our infrastructure, and also we would like to find a new way for an avant-garde creation of the territory. And also our action are in regards especially the regenerate of the urban fabric, because the urban regeneration is a core a core activity in our future of the city, and also investing in soft skill and in new knowledge, because the awareness and the knowledge are two paths in which we have to learn and to continue to learn. This is the coherency about the action plan that we have and the SDGs. As you can see in all the action, more or less from 4, 5, 6, and all SDGs are present in our work. And then the last two slides, and I will go really fast because I know that the time is running, are two actions that are not foreseen in the management plan of the UNESCO recognizes, are new. And one is related to the use of the satellite monitoring power in respect the prevention of the future damages related to the building. So how to better valorize also our buildings in knowing which are the vulnerabilities and how not to cope but to prevent damages. And this is one. And the other instead regards the avant-garde fruition of the territory and also in the sustainable path of tourism. So how to manage the vulnerability of these palaces, trying to find a way to give people an alternative routes, to use also the virtual tour and the use of bot and IoT and new technology, and helping us to valorize and not to be on behalf, only to valorize what we have as also a new identity. This is my presentation. I hope not to have bored you because I was the first one. Thank you very much. And now I would like to leave the floor and to come back.
Okay, thank you, Stefania. Of course, thank you also to your colleagues, to Corrado Ragucci, to Marzia Verrucchi. I know that it's a team managing all this. It was very interesting to me. What you presented briefly clearly was a strategy of development of a city, not just of a World Heritage Site, not just the management plan of a World Heritage Site. The Lighthouse document, which I know, it's a city strategy development plan based on the big changes that we are facing, including climate, the demographic change, the digital changes, and to me, it's extremely important to connect the presence of an outstanding heritage to the whole city development strategies. I have a short question, if I may. I know that the city of Genoa is very active in these days. I was reading about the Blue District initiative. How all these new initiatives connected to technology and entrepreneurial new initiative could represent an added value towards heritage and vice versa.
Okay, I hope you can hear me. Thank you for your question. You're right. In this period, the city is really active, and especially in trying to valorize also the ancient building, giving them a new life. The Blue District, but also the other initiative that we have, use and our major boost the use of the new technology, and especially the high level technology, so the top. You really love this word. As an added value and a key element for development. In all our actions, we do not forget the usability and the accessibility given by the new technology opportunities for all the people, because our main issue is not to leave one behind, and especially in giving a new life where possible to our asset. And historical, it is one of the main one, and it is one of the plus value of a city. But on one hand, we have to valorize it. On the other hand, we have to protect. And the technology, in my mind, could be an interlink among these two souls of the same vision. And also in our strategy, they are present. And as you told before, we look at all the trends. We pay attention to all of them and the positive and negative impacts they will bring, trying to prevent the worse one and fostering development using the positive one.
Mentioning some stressing some aspect like the lighthouse document, like this blue district brand new initiative, because in my work as a researcher, I believe they are very relevant also to know and to share. Another very interesting case that I started to know a few years ago, and we moved to the north now, is the management of Suomenlinna World Heritage Site, Suomenlinna Fortress World Heritage Site. We are very pleased to have Petteri Takkula together with us today. Petteri, I am giving you the floor to present part of your brilliant work at Suomenlinna.
Suomenlinna in Helsinki, the capital of Finland. The fortress has now served three different countries in the 18th century, the Kingdom of Sweden, and in the 19th century, the Russian Empire, and then in the 20th century and 21st century, the Republic of Finland. And the fortress has been now repurposed as a residential area and as a historical monument and a visitor destination. And I'll now try to share my presentation here and tell you a little bit more about what we have been doing here. So you can see here, hopefully, the aerial photography of Suomenlinna, and you can see that it is a group of islands, about 15 minutes ferry trip from the city center of Helsinki. It's a very small residential district of the Finnish capital with only 800 residents. But it's also at the same time the most popular cultural tourism destination in Finland. Can you hear me now? But you don't see the presentation. I'll try it one more time. Is this working now? Hopefully you can see the presentation now. Can you, Alessio, can you confirm if you see it?
We don't see it, and yeah, they suggest to click on share now. I'm reading the input that they are providing. So as far as I understand, you have to click the plus on the left bar and then share now. And then we don't listen to you because yeah, I don't know if you can read the group chat, Petteri. They are providing some input. I don't know what to do. I'm asking help to our assistants because it's I don't know really what we can do. Please tell us, help us. Yeah, they are suggesting to move on without the slides and in the meantime they are gonna check. So Petteri, sorry for this. If you can like speak.
Okay, so like I said, Suomenlinna is at the same time a very small residential area with 800 people living there and 1 million people visiting it annually. And the site manager organization, the governing body of Suomenlinna, we are a government agency operating under the Ministry of Education and Culture, and we restore, maintain, administer, and provide information about Suomenlinna. And our budget comprises of three fairly equal-sized components. Firstly, income from the rents of apartments, and then secondly, income from the rents of commercial premises, and then thirdly, the state grants. And the governing body of Suomenlinna tries to enable activities that uphold the values of the site, and we do that by managing a complex framework of shareholders. And there are lots of interconnecting and often contradictory agendas. And the main instrument in our disposal is the World Heritage Site Management Plan. And the recent revision of the management plan aimed basically at the better inclusion of all of the stakeholders. And the revision has been more legwork and less about reading the Faro Convention, which was one of the main documents behind our thinking there. We had about 30 workshops. We had about 450 people participating, and we had all the stakeholders gathered around a common table talking about the management of the site. And we tried to push the idea of a World Heritage Site as a common resource to be responsibly managed. And how to do that, we tried to improve the communication between different parties and try to thereby increase the trust levels and commitment to a longer time perspective, which we saw as very important. And this collaborative effort brought about 3 clusters of sustainability challenges that we identified together. And first was the idea behind the prolonged use of buildings, and at the same time the deterioration of the buildings by increased rainfall and extreme weathers and flood risks that they bring about. And this corresponded to the climate action as a sustainable development goal. Secondly, we always manage between tourism and residential area aspects of the site, and this corresponded to the sustainable development goal, decent work and economic growth, where we tried to focus very much on the sustainable tourism. And the third one was the trust and longer time horizons, which corresponded to the partnerships for goals. And they worked really well together, and we were able to move on by including the statement of the outstanding universal value and the sustainable developmental goals as the base of the new management plan, or the revised management plan. And lastly, I'd like to talk a little bit about the sustainable tourism, because that's what I work quite a bit on. And tourism was one of our 3 sustainability challenges. And we have a sustainable tourism strategy, which is a key component of the management plan. And there, the strategic approach was very quickly identified to be the destination approach. A site alone can do only so much, and we need layers of support, active participation in the UNESCO, Nordic, Finnish networks, and to develop the sustainable tourism at the site level. And fortunately, we were able to rely on this support, and Suomenlinna sustainable tourism strategy was built in this framework. We were one of the pilot sites for the UNESCO World Heritage Sustainable Tourism Toolkit, which we found to be a very useful tool when you are trying to integrate tourism management to overall management of the site. And I'd like to conclude by talking a little bit of the effect of the COVID-19 epidemic and how it relates to sustainable development of the site. We see that it provides challenges to the sustainability of our networks. And on short term, the solutions are needed to prevent network breakdowns. But at the same time, we need to look strategically to build a bridge to sustainable tourism in the coming years. And at the moment, the operating environment is very challenging. But how lasting are the effects? And I have been rereading the management plan and the sustainable tourism strategy, and the goals are still very valid. The marriage between the outstanding universal value and sustainable development still seems to stand. We have, however, suffered very hard hits on the economic sustainability of the site. Like I said, about a third of our income comes from businesses, and very many of those are reliant on tourism. The local economic impact of the site in Helsinki area plummets this year to about 1/4 of what it was last year because of the total lack of international visitors. And this concerns the whole Helsinki region, not only the World Heritage Site in it. In Finland, like in many other places, the domestic visitors have favored more rural destinations and attractions and avoided the capital area, which has been the center of the COVID-19 epidemic in Finland. So at the same time, we need to think on our feet, like a short-term plan to prevent all the preventable bankruptcies in our networks, and long-term, we need to stick to strategic key principles to manage tourism after COVID-19. And are we able to commit our stakeholders in the future to sustainable practices? That's going to be a challenge when tourism starts to pick up again. But then again, this was the first principle of our sustainable tourism strategy, to manage the impacts of tourism and taking advantage of the benefits. The next wave of tourism is coming in the coming years, but and we need to be ready to ensure that it's going to be sustainable tourism, and that's my main concern. But at the same time, the whole site takes into account all the aspects of the sustainable development, not only the social development issues and economic development issues that come from tourism. But
okay, thank you, Petteri. I remember very well how much it counts in economic terms. The presence of the fort for the area, for the city and the whole area. And what you mentioned here is what you are mentioning about the disaster that we are facing in this period is pretty relevant. My question is, you partially already addressed this point, but my question is, are you somehow reconsidering the strategies for the next future, for the management of Suomenlinna in the next future, according to the need of, let's say, a quick adaptation to this kind of phenomena, or in terms of improving the resilience, like in the Genova case, it was also somehow showed in the previous presentation by Stefania?
Yeah, like I said, that we need to be doing things on two fronts at the same time. We need to short-term make sure that we don't do anything so drastic that these suffering parts of our network, mainly the tourism service providers, are going to suffocate. And at the same time, we have to stick to our principles of sustainability and the outstanding universal value. And this is going to be a much tougher tightrope walk than we even imagined when this epidemic broke out. And I have to say that our resiliency was not as high as I would have thought about it when this breakdown came, and we weren't ready for this at all. I don't think anybody was, but this was not in our risk assessment charts. Not at all. Epidemics like this.
That's very true. We realized how dramatically we were unprepared with these kind of changes. But of course, it's not just about the epidemic. We are talking about dramatic change also in the demography, in the climate, in the spread of the technology, in the composition of the society. So better to learn from this moment that we are, this period that we are living. Better to learn how to quickly adapt and find new possible solutions. Let's move to another case. Thank you again, Petteri, for telling us about your work. And let's move to another case. So I'm moving to Spain now. I'm giving the floor to Mariola Andonegui. I'm very pleased to have you with us as well. You were also taking part to our international academy a few years ago, so it's really a pleasure to have a new occasion to share insights on your experience. I'm giving you the floor in a second. I just okay, here.
Hello? You can hear me? Yes? Okay. Thank you, Alessio. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy also to see Juliana there, because we were in the academy 2 years ago. I'm presenting our project in San Millán de Cogolla in La Rioja in Spain, in the north of Spain. I share with you my presentation. Okay. Sorry. So you can see on the screen the monasteries of San Millán de Cogolla, the monastery of Yuso and Suso, and in La Rioja, in the north of Spain. They were included in the list of the World Heritage Sites in 1997, considering they are exceptional testimony to the introduction and continuous survival of Christian monasticism from 6th century to the present day, and also because it's the cradle of the modern written and spoken Spanish language there. And in this since 2012, the San Millán de Cogolla Foundation, that is the organization responsible of the management of the site, has been developing a heritage education program in the line with the principles of the World Heritage Convention, and is in the framework of this program where we are implementing the principles of Agenda 2030, as long as all our educational activities are focused on the role of cultural heritage and creativity in promoting the Sustainable Development Goals. Our work is based in a deep knowledge of the heritage values of the site, and also in a deep knowledge of the social, economic, and cultural environment. And we work with the people, especially we are focused on young people and children, and also with elderly people in this rural area. That San Millán is a small town with only 100 people living there, and one small school with only now six children. It's a rural school. And also we cooperate, we work with other organizations, private and public organizations, at a national level and international level and local level. As I said, we try to reach these challenges, the sustainable goals in our local level through these activities. No, for example, we find that participatory quality cultural activities have a positive effect on the health, help break down social isolation that now we are living very hard, and generate a sense of well-being. And this is very important in this rural area where most of the people living there are old people, and that they live alone. So they need spaces where share the experiences and time with other people, young people, children, and so on. For us, also, it's very important the education, and it's very important for us the rural school, because we find that these small schools are centers where quality, inclusive education is encouraged. And I want to talk about our international project, a Creative Europe project that we organized last year with the Heritage Education Association in Finland. And I'm happy to listen to Petteri, because children from Millan went to Finland, and we have the occasion to visit Suomenlinna, and they loved the Suomenlinna island. So and then the Finnish children, they came to our country, and they visit the monasteries of Juso and Suso. And that way we want to promote the participation of rural children in cultural programs that usually are only accessible for children who live in the big cities. We also encourage women's participation in cultural life, and we give visibility to the cultural projects created by women in the rural environment, and we encourage the exercise of the rights to culture in equal conditions for women and men. And through activities like artists in residence, teacher training seminars, activities for schools, and visits for families, we are creating new works there, and we are promoting the economic growth. And also we take care of cultural tourism of quality and sustainable. For us, it's very important to collaborate with the local community, and we try to encourage them, not only adults but also children and young people, to participate in the cultural life of the community, and to participate in all our programs. And also we also try to raise the awareness among children and young people about the biodiversity of this place, no? Because it's this is a natural environment, very important in Spain. And as you know, the monasteries usually they are located in places where the natural environment is very, very important and very rich. We need to take care of this. And just to finalize, to say that heritage education in World Heritage Sites is a very important tool to reach the goals related to the Agenda 2030. Sorry. Thank you.
Very interesting view on some of the activities that you are promoting and implementing in a World Heritage Site. And it gives the sense to what I was stressing at the beginning. So the role of these places as kind of catalyzers of sustainability practices, in addition to be outstanding places to be conserved and to be visited by tourism. I have a question for you, which is about the educational role that you stressed. How are you attracting youths in in the activities, in the place, and in the activity of San Millan de la Cogolla? I mean, are the local community already receptive, or are you also trying to stimulate their participation?
They participate in our activities, but it's not easy to attract the young people. We organize for example, drama visits, and also with the European project. For them, the Creative Europe project, it was very interesting for them because they were the actors in the project. They decide what they want to do and what with heritage they wanted to share with the Finnish students. And for them also was very interesting to travel to Finland. So after that, they are more participative with us. They collaborate more. I don't know if it's clear what I say.
We all live in the same planet. Press the north-south sharing, north-south dimension, and in fact we are moving from Italy to Finland and from Spain to Norway now. So I'm happy and pleased to see you, Juliana, sharing your time with you. You are coordinating the management of a World Heritage property in far Norway, far from here, of course, at the Rjukan-Notodden World Heritage Site. Finally, I learned the name of this place. Juliana, I know that you want to share, you have many things to share. I give the floor to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Alessio. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. I am very happy to be here today. I will start with a little contextualizing of the site because it's a very complex site, and then after I will present some examples in the several dimensions of sustainability, both climate sustainability, economic, and social sustainability. I am trying to click on screen share and nothing happens. So I am clicking on screen share and then it disappears. Do you see my screen? Okay. I click on the plus and then I click on screen share and then nothing happens. I don't get any options. I got them when I was not speaking. Maybe I should not speak and then put it on and then you give me the word again. Okay. Do you see now? Well, I start with a brief introduction to the site. Located in a dramatic landscape of mountains, waterfalls, and river valleys, the site comprises hydroelectric power plants, transmission lines, factories, transport systems, and 2 towns. The complex was established by the Norsk Hydro company to manufacture artificial fertilizers from nitrogen in the air. It was built to meet the Western world's growing demand for agricultural production in the early 20th century. The company towns of Rjukan and Notodden show workers' accommodation and social institutions linked by rail and ferry to ports where the fertilizer was loaded. The Rjukan-Notodden site manifests an exceptional combination of industrial assets and teams associated to the natural landscape. It stands out as an example of the new global industry of the early 20th century. This is from our statement of outstanding universal value, and here you have an overview of the site where we are located, our buffer and core zones, and you can see that we are very big. We are 93 kilometers long site with 2 towns and a transportation system in between. We have our vision, and the vision is the distinctiveness, cultural heritage, values, and traditions characterizing the Rjukan-Notodden World Heritage Site shall form the basis for business development, social development, identity building, and good living conditions. The World Heritage Site has preserved cultural heritage and cultural landscapes to show why the industrial community was founded and how it developed and functioned. This is very in line with the Budapest Declaration also. We have a model of implementing sustainability, because we believe that sustainability and world heritage as such must be relevant to all involved. So the model is to identify needs of the local community, what this place needs at that moment, and anchor and spreading the knowledge about this and about possibilities in solving these problems through world heritage, and then trying harder, because it's difficult to find the best communication codes and methods for your context. So this is a process. We must just try. The results they are important to have results, but they are also important to show and use your results to next opportunities. My first example is it's an example of a public project, because we have a very complex stakeholder system. So public projects are they have a little bit more possibility than other projects, of course. And here we have a good example. Mannheim in Rjukan, built by Hydro in 1913 as a boarding house for young men. It was used and reused in various forms until becoming a refugee center. It had just got funds for exterior conservation measures when it burned down in 2017, according to historical England 2019 Heritage Council report. Retrofitting will reduce in average 61% of carbon emissions in an historic building. But even more than that, it can emit less carbon than a new building. The greenest buildings are the ones already built. Can you imagine all the embodied carbon in this building? So destroying it would be a shame. Now it's a state-of-the-art care apartment for citizens that need extra attention. Here, the authorities for the cultural heritage worked very closely with the municipality to enable maximum comfort for the ones moving in, with minimum damage to the historical values. For example, the original door was installed, but with the system enable automatic opening for the wheelchairs. So we find the balance, like a little bit flexibility in protecting the values, but still we are very attention to our values. So a private project, for example, in a little bit about economic sustainability, the furnace house A from 1906 was the first furnace house built by Hydro at Hydroparken. It had 32 electric arc furnaces inside, what made essential to release the heat. And this was the premise at the construction time. Today, the challenge is exactly the opposite, is to have a stable and warm climate inside. The investment is huge, around 1.9 million euros just for the restoration of the roof and facade with the windows. The total retrofitting ascends to 4 million, and it's going to be done in 2 phases, allowing the owner of the building to financially recover some of the investment before investing again. Phase 1, restoring exteriors, windows and roof, and a truck access, enable use as a cold storage. Phase 2 is interior retrofitting. The important here is that the phase 1, everything is already prepared for phase 2. There will be, for example, an extra board isolation layer on the roof to avoid condensation when the retrofitting will turn the building into a climatized area. The small additional investment at phase 1 compensates exponentially the savings with redoing all the process at phase 2. Also, the windows are already prepared to get their twins at the inside when the time comes. Here it's a partnership. It's a public partnership, public-private partnership. Until the end of the 1800s, the river in Notodden was used to float wood to the paper and construction industries. As all the power plants began to be built, Hydro had to compensate for the timber companies and built the timber flume gradually along 4 kilometers. This structure is a symbol of the articulation between industries and probably the longest timber flume in Scandinavia. To transport the materials to restore this structure, we have to reopen a little road that has not been used for 100 years. Instead of being used just for restoration and maintenance, this path is being prepared to be a permanent walking path, opening for use of this area as an outdoor area for enjoyment of both culture and nature. With the last 300 meters over the water, it's going to connect this cultural environment with the town, 5 walking minutes from the city center, enabling access to this healthy cultural experience without the use of cars. So you see here the part that will start to go in the water. A museum project, so an institutional project. Memories of the Railway is a 2-dimensional project aimed at collecting horror histories to support the railway collection. To perform the interviews, the staff would need to get a course on film, light, sound, and interview techniques. The methodology was to expand the project, sharing the capacity building opportunity with students that would then perform the interviews themselves. The result would still be a collection of oral histories, but the process has brought together 2 generations that normally never meet outside the family nucleus. This enables lifelong lasting memories for the students, an emotional anchoring of the experience, a completely different result from stopping in front of a screen in an exhibition to hear a senior speaking. These students are the decision makers of tomorrow, and these experiences influence the future of the heritage in the long run. So our roadmap to sustainability in world heritage. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, and mostly be relevant. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. It's always very interesting and somehow inspiring also to look at the work that you are very concretely carrying on your, let me say, world heritage and your area. I'm very pleased to see that most of you are mentioning education, youth, future. World heritage is, in my view, in my work, absolutely something related to our future more than our past. Sometimes we have a misperception of this. This is my feeling. I know that you are also engaged in some project related to how to enhance the visitor experience in relation also to education. Would you spend like a few words also on this, please, Juliana? Juliana, we don't hear you. So sorry for this. But I know you informed me about your projects ongoing on establishing a possible visitor center in your site. Actually, in all Norwegian Moderator sites are interested by this. This is something very interesting. I would like to learn more from you, maybe in the next future, in the next occasion. We have collected a few experiences from different countries and very different realities among them. I would like to call to the floor Reka Viragos, who works with Isabella Natol Gabriella at the World Heritage Center, to possibly offer a comment on these experiences and on the work that UNESCO is, that the World Heritage Center is promoting towards sustainability. Reka.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me because I had some issues at the beginning of the webinar with my internet connection, but hopefully it's resolved now. So yes, thank you so much, Alessio, for inviting UNESCO World Heritage Center to this very important event. And let's say this is a topic that's maybe the most important today for all of us on this planet. And I apologize. I think Isabel had sent me a message that she has issues with connection, so she wanted to provide you a very brief introduction of the World Heritage perspective for sustainable development. So I'm going to try to do that. But before I'm jumping to this topic, I just want to say that it was a really great pleasure to hear the presentation so far, and hearing people, site manager, who have a deep understanding of the importance of the Sustainable Development Goals in general. So it's good to be here. And I'm just very quickly going to present what we assume is the most important for sustainable development. And as you all know, the Sustainable Development Goals address a global challenge we all face, including poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace and justice. And the SDGs, including the 17 interlinked goal, is a social contract that all the UN state parties signed unanimously. It includes all dimensions of public rights, and it's very interesting to see that next to the environmental related rights like right for clean air and water, which are quite straightforward to understand, SDGs include culture as a human right as well. And from the World Heritage perspective, Goal 11 is the most relevant, or seemed to be the most relevant, but of course, we should not forget that these goals are absolutely interlinked and should not be aimed for one by one. So Goal 11 which in general declares that there is a need to be a future in which cities provide opportunities for all with access to basic services. And in particularly SDG 11.4 addresses the need for bigger efforts to protect the world's culture and natural heritage. This is one of the most explicit references to culture aspects in the 2030 agenda. Heritage, as it's interestingly, was long absent from the mainstream of sustainable development debate, despite its crucial importance to societies and the wide acknowledgement of its great potential to contribute to social World Heritage Convention already in 1994. But it was in 2015 when the 20th General Assembly of the State Parties to the World Heritage Convention adopted a policy dedicated especially to the integration of sustainable development perspective into the process of the World Heritage Convention. And the overall goal of the policy is to assist state parties to harness the potential of World Heritage properties and heritage in general, to contribute to the SDG goals, while respecting also the primary purpose and mandate of the World Heritage Convention, protecting World Heritage properties and their OUVs. And while the policy is specifically aimed at World Heritage properties, it is considered that its principles are relevant to culture and natural heritage in general. And concerning the dimensions of sustainability, this policy document points out that state parties in implementing the convention could consider both three dimensions of sustainable development, namely the environmental sustainability, the inclusive social development, and inclusive economic development. And it encourages state parties specifically to review and reinforce governance frameworks within management system of the World Heritage properties to achieve both the SDG goals and the protection of the OUV together. And so this integrated, so state parties should integrate conservation and management approaches of World Heritage properties within the larger regional planning frameworks, giving consideration in particular to integrity of the socio-ecological system. And of course, this job would require a lot of capacity building among practitioners, but next to it, what it would really require is the breaking down of the barriers, the traditional concept of governance, in order to achieve the SDGs as a holistic approach as it requires. So state parties should not handle anymore culture, heritage protection, nature protection, development issues, and other related topics as separate processes and with separate governance bodies that are rarely interlinked with each other in the procedural terms, if at all. But a new and better way of managing all these issues and keeping in mind that all the interconnected SDGs is the real need. And I think in this too, the UNESCO's recent publication, the Culture 2030 Indicators, is a huge step ahead by pointing out the interconnecting nature of the SDGs themselves, but also clearly highlighting the transversal role of culture in the implementation of the SDGs, pointing out the importance of culture for their implementation, and enabling measuring culture's contribution in a way that it provides also a much higher visibility. And I myself wanted to very quickly talk about, in this respect, our general monitoring tool, which is the periodic reporting, as you might all be familiar with this. This is a tool which happens every 6 years periodically for the 5 regions of the World Heritage Conventions. And it's an obligatory, well, let's say obligatory. Of course, it's a voluntary contribution of state parties, but it's a monitoring tool that would include all the World Heritage properties. And you might remember the second cycle for Europe between 2012 and 2015 was concluded in the Helsinki Action Plan in 2016. And I just wish to share a few ideas from the result of the report and the need for action. And I just want to point out that one of the main action was the better understanding of World Heritage properties. So the importance of a good understanding of the statement of outstanding universal value and being able to translate it by developing a system of attributes that convey the OUV and that enables all the stakeholders and right holders to understand what are the values at stake and which form the basis of proper and adequate management. And secondly, I just wanted to point out that the main factors, the factor groups affecting the properties in Europe and North America region were related to the built environment in the form of development pressure, tourism pressure, and climate change related factors. So very interestingly and not surprisingly at all. And in the second cycle, the SDG goals were not not clearly and directly included in this monitoring process, but we are now preparing ourselves at the Europe and North America unit for the third cycle of periodic reporting, and this is going to include a revised questionnaire, which clearly includes the SDG policy. And so there will be questions related to it. And we believe that this framework, together with the Culture 30 indicators, are going to form a good basis for also further developing indicators tool to support the implementation of the SDG goals. And just to highlight some of
and this platform doesn't allow to overlap with two microphones together. So I'm very sorry. I was taking notes about your input, which are very interesting also because you are telling these inputs from the official, from the UNESCO, from the central UNESCO viewpoint. I would like to stress your expression when you said breaking down some already existing scheme or habit or governance structure. I feel very close to this idea, to this concept, because we probably would now really need to go beyond let's say the fixed schemes, and even beyond I mean, the present time, we are pushed, this is my view as a researcher, we are pushed towards innovation, towards the finding of new solutions, and of course the interplay between the different experiences and between the central, let's say, the central role of UNESCO and the different management authorities. This could probably help a lot if correctly used and incentivized to find a way to address such big questions that we are talking about today. I would like also to call to the floor our last intervention in this panel. Claudio Bocci, you joined us during the call. I know that you are very active and you are taking initiative in the World Heritage field as well. So we still have some time. Please, Claudio, take the floor and tell about your ongoing initiative on this.
sostenibilità che avevamo progettato.
Obviously, we planned this initiative
before the tragic pandemic that hit the entire planet. And so we are trying to rethink the word sustainability from the economic but also social point of view. As we all know, culture is a source of welfare or well-being for citizens, and as such, it needs to be supported from the public sector. In order to do that, we need to introduce more evolved, more developed organizational models. And as somebody might know, in Italy, there will be a new regulation for cultural creative enterprises, inspired by the famous Green Chart of the European Union of the year 2010. However, well, our aim is to safeguard the typical characteristics of our cultural and creative enterprises, which have to be distinguished. So we have to distinguish between no profit and profit, cultural and creative businesses, which are quite similar, but they are different. Public service cultural enterprises are represented by Federculture. I was a director of Federculture until a few months ago. I know this world very well, and well, I would like to tell you about a UNESCO site, a very successful UNESCO site from the municipality of Brescia, the Foundation Brescia Musei, which is a cultural public service cultural enterprise. They have an organizational model that is very efficient, and they manage to finance themselves, and they also manage to create a lot of social value. As you know, Brescia city is a site together with Pavia, Benevento, Civita from Friuli region, and Spoleto. Well, they are a very interesting serial organizational model because they were inhabited by the Longobards, all these cities. And the Brescia Musei Foundation has developed a collaboration between public and private sectors, launching a project that is called Alliance for Culture, which has created stable collaboration of 30 entities between private and public bodies and entities. They have supported and they have carried out some extraordinary activities. What is also extremely interesting is that, well, in Italy, we have introduced the benefit corporations. So companies working for profit now are certified for also having a social value. This is a movement that is growing in Italy, also accelerated by the pandemic. So economic for-profit businesses that are very committed to social principles. And well, we will have our cultural businesses starting a dialogue with benefit corporations. And well, as Alessio Re said, we think that this would be key. And this is also why we have proposed UNIT International University in Rome, a first level master course on the management of the World Heritage and valorization of cultural heritage, supported by UNESCO. So there is actually a link between protection and promotion, and this is what cultural companies try to do. So it is a very innovative postgraduate master course. And well, it will be about UNESCO management plans. We think that UNESCO management plans could be applied also in those areas where there are no UNESCO sites, those areas that don't have the ambition to be listed among UNESCO sites. But anyhow, they represent a very good example of good management practices. Maria Grazia Pellisario, architect, she's the scientific director of the master course. We think that it will be a good opportunity to to train students. We also have the auspices of the Italian cultural sites, the European University Center of cultural heritage. So many operators between public and private operators that deal with the promotion of cultural resources and cultural heritage in a time period where the pandemic has forced us to rethink our paradigms. Well, as you know, in Italy, we have recently ratified the Faro Convention. And so we think that the management of culture has to be rethought within a context of participation and engagement of citizens within the cultural sphere. So this is the real objective, real function of culture. In order to be efficient, it has to make sure that we have the right professional profiles. We need to have qualified experts, and our master course will manage to train them. This is all from me, Alessio.
From the simultaneous translation, so I was also listening in English, and yes, so we decided to conclude with this intervention by Claudio as well, and thank you for underlying some other experiences like the Italian Lango Bardorum, the public-private partnership initiatives that were also recalled by Mariola on the San Millan della Cogolla, which is a foundation, actually. It is. We didn't have time to underline, but Reka was stressing the governance question, and each of the cases that were presented today actually responded to a different management structure, a different governance scheme, which we know it's crucial to make management, to make all this that we are talking about effective in terms of impacts and in terms of result. Yes, Italy try to play always a sort of frontline role, talking about heritage. We try to do this, and it's very good to record this new initiative that you were presenting, Claudio, about this new training initiative dedicated on World Heritage. This let me also recall that we also are quite engaged in promoting training, especially with the University of Torino. We have actually 2 masters dedicated on this. Some of you know them very well. One is a World Heritage and Cultural Projects for Development Master, lasting from almost 20 years with very strong partnerships. And since a couple of years ago, we started another one on cultural property protection. This let me link this panel with the new one, which is taking place now, exactly at 5. In another room, we organized another panel in which there is the participation again of UNESCO and of ICROM of ICOM International, and many other interesting institutions, and in which we are also launching a new initiative, which is, by the way, titled Heritage Beyond Walls, which is something that I care a lot about. I would be pleased to share with you all about this new initiative, basically conceptualized to offer access to culture. Reka was saying that culture is a human right, is stated as to be a human right in the Sustainable Development Goal agenda. We believe a lot in this, and we try to provide a little contribution, especially in targeting countries in conflict, countries where there is a huge need to keep the society and youth, especially the next generation, alive physically, but also connected to our history, to our heritage, and to our future. I would like really to thank you a lot, thank you all a lot for your time, for your insights, for presenting your work and your ideas. I really hope to stay in touch with you all and see you soon, possibly in person. Thank you and have a nice evening. Goodbye.